God bless you for taking a minute to listen to this segment, because I can definitely be a testament for this one. For the past few months, I have been in transition with change. And so tonight, one of the greatest things the Lord is showing me, it's about, maybe almost 2:30 in the morning. And I've just been kind of praying and asking God about some things that I know that I have to embrace change. And so tonight, that is this morning. So whenever you're getting this, I pray that you would kind of listen to what God is saying through me concerning my time, this particular season and reason for change. And so that's what I want to talk about, embracing God's season and reason for change. And everybody's change is going to be different. And the reason is going to be different. And so, but a little bit of my testament, over the past few years, there have been much growth in the ministry over the years. And I know very well, as John 15, it talks about us having to allow God to prune some things. But one thing I do know, for growth, we must embrace change. And so I just want to start out by saying this particular transition I am in, it's always one area in our lives where it appears to be too hard. You know how they say you don't want to let that baby go because that baby is in what you want to call your, you'll have this empty nest syndrome. I forgot to set my clock because, like I said, we only have a 15 or 10-minute span of listening. So I'm setting the clock so that when it rings, I might have to do part 2 here. But I just wanted to share that because I know I'm talking to somebody who is probably in a transition of change, whether you're being forced to change something because of maybe some bad decisions, or maybe you've been forced out of a situation because you know that it's not seeming to get better as far as your timeline is concerned. But God is always able, and He is forever for us and not against us. And He will always take care of the things that concern us. It may not be your time. It may not be your day. It may not be your way. But you can rest assured that if you love God and you are obeying the will of God, you can rest assured that God will take care of the things that concern us. And so tonight, embracing God's season and reason for change, we got to recognize the fact. And one of the things over the years that I have recognized, and with this transition that I'm in right now, or change, is very heavy. And because I have to, let some things go, and this is the only way I'm going to grow. And so I'm talking to you. Maybe it's a bad marriage. Maybe it's a child that's been really hard to get along with, or maybe it's a parent who's been controlling, or a leader that's controlling, or maybe it's something that you're dealing with financially, or something in your body that maybe you're wondering, why God, why me? But you got to understand that if He loves us, He is going to carry us through, and we will never utterly be cast down. And so He will take care of those things physically, financially, mentally, emotionally. He will take care of those things that concern us, and that includes your relationship. That includes your ministry and your concerns. But we've got to know that there's 2 things, like the old cliche say, there's 2 things we know that's certain in life, and that's death and taxes. But we got to understand that other thing that is certain is that we got to embrace the reality that in our lives and the things that we go to, from our very first breath that God gives us and to our last breath, it is certain that things is going to change. I know I'm talking to somebody. And so when these things begin to change in our lives, for some reason we get very, stressed, or we start to try to figure out, Lord, what are you doing? Or, what did I do, Lord, to deserve this? But we are constantly changing. Things are constantly changing. And you can see if we look at the weather today, or we look at the weather tomorrow, or, it's changed. And, just like night and day. Like I'm up now before day in the morning. Guess what? It's going to be daylight very soon. And I can't do anything about that. It is meant to change from dark to night. And because we are in a change change forever, constant change life, God expects us to go through that same process for us to change in our ways, change the things that we've been doing, change some things that we need to take care of as it relates to relationships or even our own behaviors. But we're constantly and forever changing. And so we're going to be changing in these different facets. I said before, even from you being a baby to an adult we're right now, or maybe you just get into a ministry and you're just starting on some things, from a child to an adult. Maybe your job has changed. You lost your job, or maybe your pet has died, or maybe your husband has died, or maybe the health of your husband or your wife has come, and, so many cancers and diseases are coming that, just tearing families apart. So much violence is tearing families apart. And we won't even mention the bloodshed that we're seeing in our society today. But even when we're facing these cultural changes, we're looking at the news with so many people are ready to riot about different situations, so many political issues, and our economy, and all computer changes every second. Look like we breathe. Cell phones are changing. Look on the news, commercial, you see cell phones are changing. And then we look at the things that they suddenly tell us, the stock market, or we're in recession. It's always something. Something is there. Something is out there to have us constantly in this state of wonder, this state of fear of what am I going to do? Or should I even try to do anything because I don't want things to change? But guess what? You're not going to be able to avoid it. I'm trying to slow it down. You're not going to be able to avoid change, because change is why he says in his word, we're going to grow from glory to glory. And so that change refines us. That change makes things better for God to use us in another facet or another way for his glory. But you got to know that without your consent, God is going to do what he has to do. And that's why I've been talking to him all day long. I've been fasting and praying and said, Daddy, why? What is it? I'm trying to get this here done. What you want me to do now? And I know I'm talking to somebody. Why would you let that come right now? I thought I had my eyes on that. I thought that I was fasting and praying that thing out. Why am I blindsided to this, Daddy? Why is this change so hard for me to bear? And the reason is just simply this. When you resist change, the more God got to turn up the fire and say, no, you're going to let that go. You're going to put those cigarettes down. Okay, Sandy, you're going to stop eating them cookies. He's going to push us in the place that we need to take care of our bodies, exercise more, eat healthy better. Change has to come. And though we may be in this boat where it looks like Jesus ain't nowhere around, when we're looking like our life's going to get turned off or we don't know how we're going to pay the next bill, but you can rest assured that he is not going to forsake us. What he will do, he will allow us to process some things. But before I go any further, I'm hoping I can make this out like about 10 minutes here. I wanted to share a little bit about, as we begin to embrace God's season and reason for change. A lot of the reasons why things come or overtake us is fear. See, fear has this negative connotation to it. Well, we all experience it. It's like a gripping force, and we find ourselves just don't know what to do. We think we're handling everything, and we're saying, okay, I got it. I know Lord has got me covered, and God is going to make sure I have this or that. He got my back. And this is all true. He sure do. He got each and every one of us in his hand in a particular way to shape us. Like the potter has that, what they call that I don't even know right now because I'm just so full. But it has that mold on the wheel, so to speak. And so these unfamiliar things that we are going through, or these unfamiliar things that we're experiencing as this change begin to grip us or seem like it's imposing upon our life or imposing upon what we think we feel more comfortable to do, it seems like it just takes us like a whammy, and this is where I am right now. I'm like, my God, okay, I'm willing to make that transition, Daddy, whatever he's telling me to do. I'm not at liberty to share here, but I am saying this to you. You have got to embrace it. Why? Because it is God's reason and his divine season for that to change. And no matter what you do, you're not going to get around it. See, you may feel like everything is going to be unstable or uncomfortable or, that things are just going to be too hard. But you got to know God is still able. Now, I want to say a couple of things you to recognize whether or not if you're in this mode that has put you to feel unstable or you don't feel good and you just want to be playing stubborn is the best word. And we know stubborn is like as witchcraft, but we're not going there. We want to talk about the time of war that we're in as it relates to change. Because we see every day there's bloodshed, but we got to look at what am I doing in my situation that's causing me not to feel comfortable in this transition. And I wanted to share that because there's some characteristics, is a better word, that I want to share that will cause us to look at these areas that cause us to hide or cause us to be in this seesaw, of what I would say, of our minds to say, I can one moment, my faith is strong, and the next moment I'm like, oh, this got to be the devil. Well, everything is not going to be the devil. You got to know some things God has to remove out of our way like a pacifier. Come out of it like a baby on a little girl or a boy getting ready to change some diapers to pull-ups. And then you got to look at it in that fashion, because you got to pull up, take off the diaper, put on the pull-up, and get prepared to make sure you put on real underwear. Because right now, we're in a stage right now that everybody is so unstable about kingdom and so unstable about family matters and so unstable about their relationship because so many things are going on. We'll find ourselves in uprooting in places that we need to be still. You'll find yourself at the courthouse when you need to be on your knees. I don't understand why we say we love God, but yet we just totally throw out the fruit of the spirit of love and the fruit of the spirit of long-suffering and forgiveness. I don't understand that. And so we've got to know that if we love God with all our hearts and all our soul, we'll start to look at these areas that cause us to be desperately unstable, or too familiar with a place that we feel like that we can't step in unfamiliar grounds, that God can help us grow and go and get the things that He wants to give us that we desire. But if He said you just want to stay there, okay, stay right there then, just like they did in the wilderness. Just stay right there and you get your clothes rotten off and everything else or whatever that is. You decide, do you want to stay here or do you want to cross over to a better place? And so some of the strategies that you got to look at that's overtaking us, many times we refuse to accept, number one, new situations, or even when we're asked to do it, we get in a bad attitude or we get in a bad way. And so you think about that. This is one thing you need to look at to see, are you using the strategy of stubbornness to refuse or change this new situation, even if you're asked to do so? Not by man. Many times God is speaking to us, but we choose to go the way we want to go. And so ask yourself that question. And then, am I trying to block, or am I trying, I guess that's when we go into witchcraft, because we don't want to embrace God's change, and maybe through a leader trying to take you another direction, or maybe you running around like a vagabond trying to find somebody to mentor you, or trying to get somebody to help you, when actually God has them right in front of you. But because they're turning the fire up based on God's divine will for them to instill what they need to instill in you so you can be sharpened, then we refuse that. You begin to block that new place, that place that's unfamiliar, or that unfamiliar situation. So you'll block it and cause yourself to be hindered. Or then you begin, the third thing, you start to proceed, or you may start to anticipate that every possibility of change, or these areas that you're not so mature in, you will block it because you figure, you don't want to look dumb, or you don't want to look like you need any help. So you'll block the opportunity of change or help. And then the fourth thing is you start denying, that is, that there is ever a need for change in your life. You figure if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, I know that's good in some respects. But some things have to be fixed. Some things have to be looked at in a greater light to see what is it I need to do to make change, not for the worse, but for the better in my life. You got to quit denying. You got to quit overlooking the thing that God is trying to, show you and pull away the forest for the trees situation in your life, so that you can have a clear vision of what God is trying to take you for your ministry to grow, for your marriage to change, for your relationships to change, so your relationship even with your children or those that you are leading can be different. And then the last one is resisting internal pressures or impulses to change yourself. You know, when you see the internal thing, that shaking that God has given you, that dream that God has given you, that he's pressing you, saying, my daughter, my son, you need to go this way. And we don't have to go and seek a dream interpreter every time, because we already know what God is saying to us. We just choose. We know these impulses are there. I like to say we know that God is ringing our bell and speaking to us prophetically, or sending some blood-bought soldier by the way to warn us, this has to go. This has to be awakened. This has to heal. This you've got to forgive. This you got to make a change in this relationship. You know, and so on. And so in that place, if you do not, you know, make a decision, because now you become stubborn. And when you become stubborn, what happens is you find a way to internalize things that will cause you to become very, very ill emotionally. And so I want to close out with this, because I know it's my time to close out. And I guess I'll go to part two, because I do need to explain a couple of things as it relates to, you know, some ways that you can start to embrace your change, so that you don't have to worry about, you know, what it is that God is trying to do. But most importantly, that there it is, there said Baal, that you arrested him, to know that everything he do is good, and that he's not there to hurt you. He's only there to help you. And so in looking at this closing out issue as it relates to change, I want to give you this word for you to look it up, because it's very simply said, and it is being stubborn, whether we want to admit it or not. This is why God has to allow some things in our lives to come, as hard as they may be, for us to change so that we can grow. But this determination, or this state of our mind, it ensures us that a good situation or things are already good enough, so we want to maintain it. This is the reason why we won't change. But we got to know that this sometimes becomes so just a place in our hearts to become hard and stubborn, or our thoughts become overtaken with our own will. The word I want you to look at is obstinacy. And so that's O, B like boy, S, T like Tom, I, N like Nancy, A, C, Y. And so what this means is a state of where your mind has this excessive fixation on the existing situation. That means you're willing to stay right there. You don't want things to change. All you know is easier for you this way. You know, some people say, I just don't even want to bother with it. Just let it go. Just let it go. Well, you're not really letting it go. Because regardless of your logic, that you're thinking that this is the desirable way you want it, this is what's easier for you, regardless, you know, this can't happen, because what you're thinking in your mind is that this is the best way. You know, why? You said to yourself, why is it the best way? Well, I guess because I don't care what nobody else thinks. That's why. You know, this is easier for me. But this obstinacy, what it will do, it will cause you to cling on to something that you think is healthy, when actually it could be a terrible situation, or it could be something that you're trying to avoid for another reason. So what happens is that you just keep on in this state of obstinacy, refusing to recognize the fact that this is unhealthy, and this is not fruitful, and what? You won't even give it an opportunity to face the change that God is trying to give you. Why? Because we simply become stubborn about change. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with some fruits that you can use, or keys to prepare you to embrace God's season and reasons for change on part 2. God bless you for listening.